This evening, Eric's going to give us a presentation, K17 and K2, on the Clark County ARES and RACES. And you are the EMR coordinator, right?
The title is Emergency Coordinator, otherwise known as the Stucky. So,
I'll be your
driver.
over here.
And where's my X?
You are fine.
I am on it. Excellent.
If you don't roam too much, we're good.
So we have several ARES members here, including online. You put your hand up. You guys can keep me honest. So if I say something wrong, if it's to our benefit, let it go. If it's not, then correct it. Okay, so that's me. That's our the email address that we monitor and our website address. Appreciate the offer to come back. I think I was here about 3 years ago. So appreciate the opportunity to come back and update you on some of what we've been doing. That's what I'll be emphasizing tonight. And appreciate asking for some written material that went on your website, I think, a month or a month and a half ago. Appreciate you asking about that and doing that for us. Okay, next slide, please. Since we have somebody who's brand new, okay, good. I'm not going to blind anybody. I'll just blind the ceiling. So, since we have somebody who's brand new, we'll answer the question, what is ARES? Because most people here probably know, but I imagine you don't, sir. Excellent. You're my guy. So what do we do and what have we done like in the last 3 years? And of course, how would you get involved if you chose to do so? Go ahead, please. Slide, please. Okay, so what is ARES? It's an acronym, Amateur Radio Emergency Service. It's trademarked. It's a program of the ARRL, Amateur Radio Relay League. The local group is not part of the national group. We are affiliated with it, so we're somewhat independent. But nevertheless, they provide us training and support and what's your position? Oh, you got it there?
It says Assistant Section Manager for Nevada.
Right, so they provide us I'll call it statewide section, but for Nevada that means state and national infrastructure of leadership and such. So it's I won't call it a loose affiliation, but they pretty much leave the local groups to do whatever needs to be done locally. Fundamentally, we're volunteer ham operators serving our communities with voice and data communications. We provide we're sort of just a training organization, so that our served agencies tell us what they need and we provide the training to do it. When we get activated by our served agencies, which has only been done a few times in my association with them for about the last 6 years. You're no longer an ARES member. You're not there as an ARES member. You're there as a Clark County Fire member. You're there as a Sheriff's Department member. You're there as a whatever. Nevada law says you're working, there is such a thing as a volunteer worker, and that's what you are when you go to work for these organizations. And it's our job to find out what do they need, get the training to our members, which is partially outlined in the National Task Book. ARES standardized it to look like what most organizations nationally need. And off we go. So who do we serve? Locally, the Clark County Office of Emergency Management is our boss. However, we also coordinate with the State Office of Emergency Management. You may know it as the Division of Emergency Management, but it's been reshuffled under the governor instead of the adjutant, so they changed the name. And also local hospitals. JC is our hospital coordinator, so he'll probably interject a time or two, I'm sure. And National Weather Service and Skywarn. And you talked about upcoming events on the 13th of June, 9 a.m., Clark County Government Center downtown, the big red building. Skywarn will be doing their training in conjunction with our meeting. Anyone is welcome to do that, and I'm sure they'd love to have more. You don't have to be an ARES member. We'd love to have you sign up to be, but you don't have to be. People show up there who have never had a license, never going to get a license, but they want to participate in Skywarn, and that's just fine. Frankly, when I travel to the Midwest, Skywarn is a lot more active than it is here. However, we do have events here that we do activate for, even as recently as we were thinking Sunday evening with the wind blowing every building in town over. So So there's some of the logos, and there you see one of our folks out training at St. Rose Siena, which we get out and do. Okay, so why? Why would you need amateur radio operators? Well, back in the day, that was your only option if the copper phone stopped working, right? You had to find somebody with a radio. Still very useful in every major emergency. There's some role for ham radio operators to play. We've seen that in Hurricane Helene recently, where that was the only way to get into some of these communities. Basically, as soon as your glowing rectangle stops working, probably anybody under 35 years old is going to freak out, but radio still works locally and nationally as long as the band is working for you. But things you might not know about Clark County: we're larger than the 5 smallest U.S. states, larger than the 3 smallest ones put together. So a lot of the ARES groups throughout the nation have one city, or like for Los Angeles, even a slice of a city. Well, we're dealing with areas that are much bigger than many states. A lot of it's empty space. Yes, that's true. Of course, we have about 2.8 or more million people, mostly where we are right now, but not all. We still have people in Mesquite, Laughlin, and Indian Springs. I'm responsible for them as well. We were told at one time that the state had 57 medical facilities that ham radio was a backup to at some point. Some equipment bought on grant and still functional. We have, within Clark County, we have 19 town boards in the major municipalities, and the Office of Emergency Management said, yeah, we want you to support all those. You start doing the math, that's more than a few people we need to be able to answer the phone call, grab a go kit, and be on their way. So we're constantly in the we need more people, we need more people, we need more people mode. As far as, well, whatever happens here, nothing ever happens in Clark County. We don't get snowstorms, we don't get floods, other than some flash flooding. Whatever happens here, we're certainly in earthquake territory. We saw a lot of that over the last month, northeast of here. We certainly do get monsoons, and there's these things called mountains that get in the way of nice radio propagation. Fortunately, hard stuff is our forte, so we like doing that. Whenever we volunteer to support an event, we always say, give us the worst possible operating position you can think of, the most challenging position, and we make it work. So, slide please. So what have we done? Mostly, when we've been activated, we go to what's called the Multi-Agency Coordination Center. That's the nerve center when something goes really bad, and a lot of organizations have to coordinate. That's where their liaison is, and we are there not to liaison with ham radio, but we're there that when the lights go dark, they still have the ability to get out and talk, and we have people on standby at their homes ready to deploy out to other locations. It's sort of been a bit of a challenge that they've asked us to go also be ready to go at Metro headquarters and down at they call it a dock, where Metro actually operates for major events and for other locations. And the night before the events, I say, that's great, we'll be there, but just so you know, none of us are cleared for your building. And that's when they usually say, oh, yeah, don't do that. So if you have the ability to influence anybody on that, please do. I was just commenting to Tom that I'm about ready to go to the elected officials and say, look, you know, what's the deal here? Either invite us in and let us in, or don't. So, and that's not just locally. That's nationwide. ARES organizations are dealing with that, and it's not recent either. 20 years we've been trying to get into our office at the county IT building. Is that about right, Charlie? Yep. So what have we done? We go there and we've supported certainly. I thought it was 3. Is it 3 F1 events? 2, right? I'm sorry?
3 days.
3 events. 3 years?
Just want to annotate.
Yeah.
I believe they just extended that for 12 more years to 2038.
Well, we'll be there 12 more times then. So we go there, they activate the place, meaning every representative needs to show up. They do a 12-hour operational period that's standard in emergency management. I split that in half for our guys. That gets twice as many of our guys into the operations center, not just to cut our shifts short, but to get more people involved and see what's going on there. We go there, typically 3 people. They have radios, facility radios that have good antennas on the roof that we use, but we never go anywhere without our go kits, because you never know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And we kind of get to see what goes on, what decisions are made, how they're made. And the Long Beach folks who are going to do the Olympics here soon, they talked to us for a little while during New Year's Eve or F1, I can't remember which, but they were kind of like, ham radio guys are here? What do you mean ham radio guys are here? So who knows? Maybe you'll see some ham radio backup type activities for the Olympics as well. But again, they have VHF and UHF radios there. We walk in. WinLink is a basically email over radio. If you're not familiar with it, we can actually do it out here in the parking lot. We can try to do it out here in the parking lot. We're big into that. And also, I mentioned our office. It's at the county's emergency communication center. Same kind of things where we go show up, and they have a lot of equipment in there. So that's the MAC. Here's our cubicle over at the county IT building. And here's a couple of us out in the parking lot getting ready for the Formula One events. Before these major events, we go to all the major locations that we would expect to deploy to. They let us onto the premises, and we do signal checks just to make sure if we have to show up somewhere that there's a hope that we can actually make contact and do a good job for them. So that's us at the paddock. They said, oh, you're the CB guys, and I think Keith took offense to that, but yes, we're the CB guys. Fine. And again, the county IT building is a secured building, so that's an ongoing issue, which I hope to resolve. Slide, please. So what have we done? We run resource nets, meaning we keep track of who's available to go and do something. That's a resource net for Electric Daisy Carnival. JC did that for quite a number of days recently. You want to, while I'm looking up the exact number, sir, if you have any quick comments on that?
I run 3 nets. I do the EDC stand-up net for that, and it went over pretty well this time. I also do the F1 and New Year's Eve nets.
So he's keeping a list of who can go do what where. If should the
So when you call in, I log your name, and then maybe at that time or the next time we have a check-in, I will go ahead and ask if you're deployable and if you're able to operate your equipment on battery. So if not, then you can stay at your house, because in case of emergency, we may have to have people at their home QTHs, plus the ability to be sent out into the field.
right. Yep. And JC's, I didn't get all the numbers, but this year he's always right on it. This year we talk in terms of donated hours. It was 236 donated hours this year, 396 last year for EDC, for F1, 320 last year, 335 the year previous, for New Year's Eve 131 this year, 95 previous year. And for the total for all the years, 2026 so far, 367. Last year, 816. And 2024, 335. Why are those numbers relevant at all? Well, FEMA puts a dollar figure on that, $34 an hour for a radio operator. And that's what the supporting organizations get to claim as money saved or get to go chase down for their budget. So, you recognize that picture, Bob? That's yours. Yeah.
That was the float up on Sunrise Mountain.
Yep. We also have logins. Some of us do. You don't just have a physical emergency operations center anymore. Everything is online. You go to the MAC, and there's nobody walking in with clipboards. There's none of that. They all have their glowing rectangle, and that's it. That's what they're completely dependent on. So, including logging into a system called the Web EOC. This was especially active during COVID when they didn't get together at all, but we have logins to that. We can see incidences as they occur and, kind of get a pulse on what's going on to see if we might need. In fact, we even have an amateur radio section on Web EOC. So, we generate field reports and funnel them to the National Weather Service. Again, that's Bob's photo there from monsoons, wind, and hail. We're trained by the National Weather Service. You don't have to be a ham radio operator to do that, but nationwide we're sort of trusted agents. We have been since there probably was a National Weather Service. ham radio operators have been. People who will accept training, follow procedures, and when something happens, they'll be proactive and get the information to who it needs to go to. HALO is an interesting one because apparently weather radar with the curvature of the Earth doesn't do very well in finding it or knowing much about it, the severity of it. So they rely on first-person reports to tell and the size of a hailstone is a good indicator of how strong the storm is. So it's still a thing. First-person reports are still a thing. So. Well, again, JC is our hospital coordinator. We get out and visit a good number of them, and the municipal emergency operations centers. Within the last year, we've been to the one at Henderson, North Las Vegas, and Las Vegas. To each one of those, they each have a radio room, and they all pretty much look like the MAC. An emergency operations center is an emergency operations center is an emergency operations center. But we get out there, one, so that our members know where they are, how to get into it, and what they're going to walk into if they need to operate from those locations. And we also get out to hospitals and do the same thing. This is the radio rack over at UMC. So, and well, we haven't been there in a little while. They have, most of these facilities have reasonable antennas with good coax, and you roll out the cart, jack into it, or bring your own equipment and jack into it, and off you go. So, and of course, we sweep the antennas while we're there to make sure there's something on the other end of the coax. So, sort of unofficial, but the majority of what our members really do. I say semi-official. I used to not claim any support at all because we're not the sponsor of the organization, but I've sort of come around to the idea that we make up a fair proportion of the participants in these activities, so maybe I should start saying we're involved in them on more than just an unofficial level. But the Silver State Classic and Nevada Open Road Challenge, there was a 200-mile-an-hour open road races from Lund to Heiko. We just completed one of those this last week. And what did we do? We only had one problem this week, and that was?
Tire blowout.
That's an understatement. A Ferrari tried to become a bulldozer at 170 miles an hour, and only was successful at that for a little while. So in that we had a quite excellent group from Utah show up. Ham radio operators, and they're like, well, don't you have internet at the start line? Why can't you hook up to this, that, or the other? I said, those big white spots on every cell phone coverage map? That's where you are, okay? That's it. Ham radio has been it since the beginning in '88, and it still is. So it's kind of an interesting event. There's about 40-some hams that support that. Tom, something like that? I'm going to say we make up at least a quarter of that. So, let's see, First Responders Relay Race. They've since gone back to California because I guess Nevada organizations didn't show up in force. But that's basically goes around Red Mountain, or did go around Red Mountain, Henderson, Boulder City. That's one of our stations there. You're down in a hole. The next station's only a mile away, but you can't talk to them, kind of a thing. So that's, again, we ask for the most challenging operational situations. This is a few of us at the start line of one of the Silver State Classic road races with one of the first cars starting off there. And a lot of our operations don't occur in nice, convenient times and nice, convenient places. A lot of our things are at night. So you have to operate off grid power, bring everything you need, lights. Once you leave your shack, if you didn't remember it, you don't have it. So it's a pretty good training for deploying for times that aren't just recreational activities. So, slide please. Okay, what else? More things. Baker to Vegas. That's a law enforcement foot relay race from Baker to Vegas. That used to be exclusively ham radio support. This last year, I understand they used cell phones, and maybe it didn't go as well as they hoped. So, ham radio operators may be back. So a lot of our folks show up to do that. Pony Express Rewrite, I know Frank is online there. Care to unmute and say a word about that, Frank?
Here, the team from Las Vegas goes up to Austin, Nevada, which is smack dab in the middle of nowhere. And we maintain communications from the Utah border to the California border. and support the event and the horses, as it takes about 3 days for them to ride across the state. We do all that from Austin, Nevada, using DMR, Fusion, HF, and anything else we can think of. And there's a team from Las Vegas of about 10 folks that go up there and support the event. Back to Eric.
Thank you. And we've had some inroads with various off-road racing communities, whether it's rally cars. We did a couple events for the SNOR organization, both providing them labor for their organization and also going out and doing radio checks to see, hey, is what you're planning to do feasible for your event? Is where you're going to put people feasible for your event? So we do those kind of things as well. This is Frank's crew setting up his thing in Austin, and there's your ARRL section manager out doing the recent off-road race in Beatty. So, also, there are things we can do from our homes. There are events throughout the nation. Of course, we're interested mostly in the ones close to home. USGS annually does a shakeout event, which is to keep us aware of earthquakes, not just communications after an earthquake, but look around. If one happens right now, this is not a good place to be because that thing weighs half of what I do, right? So there are reports. Yes?
The shakeout events, we've had several reports of those earthquakes last week.
Yeah, there was.
Through the shakeout.
Really?
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. The LAX Northeast ARES group, sort of our brethren from Los Angeles, they do a tsunami exercise, which we participate in. You might ask, why is Las Vegas participating in a tsunami exercise? Well, I don't care what the origin of the emergency is. The follow-up to it is generally the same. Figure out what you've got, how you're going to get stuff from point A to point B, where does it need to go, and get the communications flowing to make those things happen, both by voice and by digital modes. So I don't care what you title it. They're a very organized group, and it's easy for us just to slide in and participate. So we do that, as well as the Nevada Simulated Emergency Test, and the Utah Shakeout was held recently. Our folks up in the Northeast in Mesquite, kind of like everything in Mesquite, they kind of affiliate and don't affiliate with Big Brother Las Vegas. So they more affiliate with the folks in St. George than they do with us, and that's fine. But during their event for the Utah Shakeout, they asked us to provide traffic for them to pass, and for the second year in a row, we buried them. Because that's what happens during an emergency. You're going to get more than you can handle, and you got to figure out what to do with it. So, 6 of our members are Auxcom certified by the state of Nevada, which is a FEMA program, meaning that we're basically communications reservist, and we could be deployed nationwide. So the federal government seems to be fairly friendly to ham radio operators. It's the state and local guys that kind of like their fiefdoms, I guess. But on the federal level, I guarantee you there's ham radio operators working the California wildfires right now. So, and of course there's certifications ever since Hurricane New Orleans, Katrina. The federal government kind of got their act together a little bit and has standardized training and whatnot. We take on that role. We take the standardized training. We learn what the standardized federal processes and organizations are, and we learn how to meld into those to get the job done. So, and Auxcom certification is one way to do that. Yeah, some of these pictures look familiar, huh? So. Okay, our weekly net, 1900, we take check-ins on, let me see if I can do it right in one swoop here, DMR, D-Star, we have a county bulletin board system, you can check in and leave a message on packet. We do HF voice, Echolink, did I get them all? C4FM, okay, I'm going to have to learn more about that, because to me that and D-Star are the same, and you're going to correct me and tell me, no, it's not. Okay, oh, well, there you go.
You mentioned packet on Monday night. What is the status, and I may be behind the times on this since I've been on board,
with the 14505 digipeater up at Odyssey that we in the past went in from Prong and Amherst.
Okay, Frank probably knows best. Frank, do you have an answer about the POTUSI packet repeater?
May 30th.
Yes, I do. We are, the county is not supporting us the way we'd like to be supported, so we're going to endeavor to support ourselves, and we've got a trip planned for the end of this month to go up there and see what we can do about getting it reactivated.
There you go.
A lot of people on the other side of the hill are looking forward to that.
Yes, yes. Let's see. And then 1930, on what would be the 4 county-owned amateur radio repeaters that are supposed to be linked together, I'll talk about in a second. They haven't been linked for about a year and a half, and we're working it. Also, we do monthly training where I had props. We do things like build sound cards. You can't see much, it's a shiny box, but I say build. We didn't do the surface level soldering, okay? We did attach the pigtail and it works. So don't think that we're doing, really, really detailed work. But basically, if our guys have to make a field repair like this, this was a good exercise. Also, it gave us, we had 20, maybe 15, 20 people opt in to buy these. And if you're not familiar, you can use these to do to build a modem basically with your computer. So you can do packet, you can do any of dozens of other digital modes with a standard radio and your computer. So we emphasize that. We've also gone out and built dipoles. This is many of them on one, this is 2 VHF and 2 UHF ones, whichever one I need to use. We've built these. So we do field repair kind of exercises as well as academic exercises. You want to talk about you were the organizer of the LDS conference. Would you like to talk about that for just a second?
Yeah, sure. We, as a ERC, Emergency Response Communications, the LDS community, we have a net monthly. Anyway, twice a year we try to have these conferences of teaching, inviting anybody in the community to come and learn about ham radio. We do GMRS radio, anytime emergency communication kind of things. We invited the ARES group to come and participate. I had heart surgery, so I couldn't do the antenna class I was supposed to, and Eric graciously filled in for me doing that. Anyway, we just invite the community to try and learn about emergency communication things and have classes on it.
Yep.
Twice a year.
Yeah, as I say on our weekly net, we take check-ins not only from our own members and from visitors, but from other organizations that do similar things to us. Because we're not the only game in town. We know that. We don't want to be the only game in town. However, we do want to play nice with everyone else and make sure that should something large kick off, that we're all coordinating well and not working at cross purposes. So we were very happy to be able to support that. It was a great event. And I'm sure we're going to have more coordination with that group in the future. Let's see, what other things have we done? We did an NVIS exercise out at a park. That's you can't really see it well, but there's a little teeny wire yay high off the ground, 40-meter antenna. We were able to reach out to surrounding cities, which was our goal. If Las Vegas has a problem of some sort, we're going to be reaching out to Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Los Angeles. 300 miles is about your travel distance to any other major metropolitan area. And running NVIS on 40 meters with digital communications and voice communications allowed us to do that without very sophisticated equipment. You don't need a ton of money to make a 40-meter dipole. Let's see, we've also done out in the field packet exercises where we left messages on our county bulletin board, which by the way is K7CCN-1. K7CCN-1. That's our club call sign, even though we're not a club. It's our club call sign K7CCN. And -1 is our bulletin board on 14505. That bulletin board is in the county IT building and kept running very well over a year. When they renovated the entire space around it and managed not to destroy it, managed not to destroy any of the coax. They did a good job. And of course, strictly in an unofficial way, we do POTA activations because field operations is our lifeblood, and that's field operations. So why not go do some of that? So here you see a POTA operation from a few years ago. This is us building sound cards and a couple of things from our NVIS exercise, both the equipment and some of our operators here. That's a little teeny sunshade for a laptop is what that is. So we do a lot of digital work because, frankly, that's the way of the world now. If somebody were to give you a list of 100 medications, would you rather spell it out phonetically over the next hour and a half? Or would you rather say, do you happen to have that on a thumb drive? And pop it in and send it over WinLink and be done in a couple of minutes with a 100% accurate copy. That's the way the world is now. So, okay, go ahead, please. The bottom line, we're welcome in the local government spaces. They have our phone numbers and they say they'll call us. We're regularly at the MAC. We regularly use the Clark County Government Center training rooms for our monthly training. Mostly we trade to operate away from home because yes, a lot of us have substantial capabilities at our home and we need relay stations, but we don't need everybody to be a relay station. We need people boots on the ground where the decisions are made and the actions happening. So we routinely operate away from our home, which I'm going to say is a mandatory baseline skill set. One thing I thought maybe it was on the slides, but I forgot, now that I see Charlie sitting there, that we also supported the recent Corporate Challenge bicycle race, where up and down Las Vegas Boulevard, they stationed us, I don't know, 1.5 miles, 2 miles apart, kept track of that. So we do that, again, out in the middle of nowhere. Basically, you're out in the middle of nowhere between Jean and Las Vegas. With no grid power, well, I call it an austere environment. Whether it's a parking lot with nothing around you or the desert with nothing around you, you've got nothing. If you didn't bring it, you don't have it. And you need to make sure it's ready to go before you leave. Again, voice and digital communications locally and I'm going to say regionally because we don't need to send messages to Florida probably, but certainly the Western United States, if anything big happens throughout the Western United States, those are going to be the people who roll in and assist us, not just from communications, but in any other way as well. So we're supporting community events while we're being ready to go as the last line of defense in an emergency. In emergency communications, and they have what they call not even communications, just emergency management. They have what they call, what's your PACE plan? What's your primary, auxiliary, contingency, and emergency? And basically 4 layers of redundancy. And we should all just swallow the pill that in 2026, ham radio is the 4th option. But it's an option. So that's where we plan to be. When everything goes dark or the cell phones get overloaded like they always do during a major emergency, ham radio still works, and we're the ones who have practiced the procedures, we have the right equipment, and maybe most importantly, we're willing to do it. So, okay. Things yet to be done. I've already mentioned if the government really wants us in their spaces, they need to let us in their spaces. There are currently, I mentioned, 4 ham radio repeaters owned by Clark County. They're supposed to be linked, and they haven't been for quite some time. To the county's credit, they have put their IT contractor on the job, and they're rebuilding IRLP servers to support that. So pretty soon you'll be able, with a fairly modest HT with a decent antenna, to be able to activate all of Clark County, which is pretty substantial. Remember, it's larger than the smallest, larger than the smallest 5 states. So that's quite a bit of area.
Eric, where are they? I know we have the one on Red Mountain.
Red Mountain, which is between Boulder City and Henderson. There's one on Angel, which is due west of here. There's one on Spirit Mountain, which is almost all the way to Laughlin. If you know where Christmas Tree passes down there, it's pretty close to that. And then Beacon Hill, which is north of I-15, barely out by Moapa. So you should be able to hit the push to talk key and have good communications through. I mean, if you're down in a canyon, of course, you're not going to, right? But pretty much throughout the county, you'll have good communications. And again, to their credit, they're working the issue. So
They're working repeaters on Spirit Mountain and Beacon?
no, they're working the linking.
Okay.
The repeaters work fine. The repeaters work fine. They're just not linked together. Yeah, so they're having to go back to first principles and trace wires. And, the guy who did it's not there anymore, and those kinds of issues. So, but they're doing it. We used to be a 503c, and we need to get back to doing that. Quite frankly, I've scaled back on the kind of training we should be doing out in the field because I don't want Glenn Lerner showing up at my door when we drop an antenna on little Johnny. And you really need to, it's kind of sad that you need to be a corporation to serve your community, but I think you guys probably are one, right? Yep. So so we're going to get that back going again. And that makes money, and that takes money, and frankly, money's not raining from government agencies anymore, so eventually we're going to have some modicum of dues to pay. I hate to charge people to volunteer, but that's the world we live in. Again, we need people to do these things. And one thing I'd like to especially mention while I'm here is, again, I said we're not the only show in town. You guys, I'm sure, have some contingency planning on the shelf, and we'd like to make sure that we're aware of what your intentions are should something occur so that we can coordinate and best get whatever job done is done. I've been told by one of the local ham radio presidents a couple of years back that we're doing it wrong, that government agencies aren't where we should be focusing our effort, that the real value of ham radio is getting the ground truth out from the grassroots people out in the community reported, to which I said, okay, if you wish to take that on, that is a great thing to do. Let me ask you this, who do you report it to? To somebody in a government agency emergency operations center, and that would be us. So, okay, next please. Future things that we could do. Some people, I understand, don't want to take all of the required FEMA courses. They just don't want to do it, but they want to help. Okay, we can probably entertain that as a path forward, particularly for hospital support. Although I'll tell you, to get in to go work in these hospitals, they're expecting the same courses as to get into an emergency operations center for the municipalities. So. But if somebody says, I'll go down and support this hospital, but I'm not going to drive to Laughlin, thank you very much, we may be able to entertain that. And again, agreements with everybody else who's doing similar things. Okay, slide please. Okay, how to get involved. You have to bottom line, you have to have a WinLink email account if you don't already have one. It's free. Just go to winlink.org. It takes about a day. They verify that you are a, for sure, licensed ham radio operator. They look up your license and say, yep, sure enough, that's you. By the way, if you're ever sending traffic over WinLink, you should be aware that, like everything in ham radio, it's public, right? So you may be tempted to forget while you're typing into your computer that somebody in, Africa, Europe, Asia, whatever, could be reading that traffic. So keep that in mind. Our application is at ccnvares.org. Take a look at the fine print, please, because it basically says we're expecting you to participate. I basically have to have a roster that I can go to the county emergency manager and say, these are your people. And if people don't participate, then frankly, they're never going to be on that roster. And that's what our purpose of the organization is to build that roster. So there are three levels in the National Task Book, which, by the way, looks a lot like the federal government's Auxiliary Communicator Task Book. And you could almost take the cover sheet off and put another cover sheet on it. It's the same training, same skills, same everything. But there are 3 levels in there. Level 1 means effectively you can spell ham radio, and you filled out the application. That's really about all there is to it. What's that?
And have a license.
I don't think you don't even have to have a license to be Level 1 ARES nationally. You just have to fill out the application. But we really need people who can actually operate in the field, so yes, you need a license. Level 2 is what we call the baseline. That basically means that you've demonstrated the ability to do things like send digital traffic, handle yourself on the radio appropriately, be able to operate different modes, be able to do basic repairs, and can you make a new power connector? Because we've all gone out in the field and found out that the thing that we were counting on just isn't going to cut it, and we have to build a new power connector, right? So, and then level 3 is kind of more for the administrative and leadership type roles. Basically, since we're in a county that's so huge, I like to say that you need a general or extra license, because if you need to, if I'm in Laughlin and I need to talk to Mesquite, HT, VHF is not going to do it, right? You're going to have to use HF just within our own county, which means general or extra license. So, which, you know, it's an achievable thing, certainly. So thanks for having me out. Nobody threw too many tomatoes and my guys didn't speak up. What have I forgotten that I should be saying, gentlemen? Well, what have I forgotten? We haven't had a barbecue yet. We have had some park things where we bring some food, but we're not really that kind of an organization. We could be, but we're not.
You almost had me.
Oh, would it, if I?
Barbecue, and maybe we'll get some more.
Yeah.
Ron told us on the announcements that you would inform us how to call the fire department if everything is...
Okay. So here's the ugly truth. One of the reasons I got involved in ham radio is I was going farther and farther away from home on my dirt bike out in the desert, because I thought surely someone's monitoring ham radio frequencies for emergency response. Here's the truth. No one is monitoring other than other hams. So, however, if something kicks off, you can get on one of the 4 repeaters that's listed on our website. Well, you'll be doing one of the 2 here in Las Vegas, and we will be accepting traffic. So, but yeah, no government agencies are monitoring amateur radio. Maybe, and quite frankly, what's the first word? It's not government radio. It's amateur radio. And there seems to be a trend right now, and it's good and bad, that a lot of the hospitals and other agencies are getting their employees licensed so that they can use amateur radio. You know, they like to keep control of their people, right, that are in their facilities, which is understandable. But it's kind of bothering me that these public or for-profit organizations are planning on using amateur radio for their own purposes as part of their business plan. That's really not the way it was supposed to go, right? So, well, they are. There's actually specific language in the regulations that say hospital employees can get paid on the job while performing amateur radio duties for drills. So, there was another question? Yeah.
So everything in light with what Joe was talking about, let's say a hypothetical situation, the grid's down, no internet, no cell phones, nothing. And a house 3 doors down the street is on fire. How do we get a message to the fire department?
At the moment, you're kind of out of luck. And that's where this, hey, let's coordinate, cooperate and graduate line comes in, is that I think we need to be working with the organizations such as yours that would provide grassroots operators to stand up on one of our frequencies or some other, your own repeaters, and call, say, us. If something major has happened, we're probably going to be involved with the responding agencies, and you would be calling us and we would be relaying the information.
Communicate with the fire department, let them know they need to go to 123 ABC Street.
I think it would be, we're a large enough city that us at the MAC are not going to help you because it's too central of a facility there. But certainly, our people are sprinkled all around the valley just like you are. That's what I would expect our guys. Where's Richard? Richard, where are you? Yeah. I would expect all our guys, who I keep cajoling, and this group here is not the people I have to cajole, to stand up and start a net. And they would be the local net control operator who would be, coordinating with whoever their local, the days of, I'm going to grab my radio, having never practiced anything, and walk down to the fire department and do a good thing. Those are long since over. They will turn you away. If they don't know who you are, they will, if something really bad happens, they'll probably, let you do something. But if it's not a complete disaster, they're gonna say, in fact, we sort of have this problem now when we go to the MAC. They say, where's your agency ID? Well, we don't have one. So So as I've told Frank before, how you get in there is I put you on the roster and you smile and give them your driver's license and they let you in. So, but right now, you're kind of out of luck. And that's, I guess maybe that's the major takeaway from today is let's start working on that. So, yes, sir.
I'm retired from Southwest Gas Shell. Went for Katrina, dispatched people to LA after the earthquake. I predict your entire organization will be challenged in the next program. Because it sounds like we've done the typical thing of ignoring ancillary capabilities until everything goes to hell. And I'll tell you what's going to happen when we go get the 7,200 megawatts that comes off of Hoover Dam. They say that they're prepared for it. I seriously don't.
Well, that's California.
And when that happens, you're going to see rolling blackouts.
Well, I'm
And this
power grid.
company will be SOL because it's
Yeah, so I mean, maybe I can ask you if you have influence over people who make decisions, including contacting your representatives to say, hey, have you thought about this? There's a pool of operators ready for you to use. Maybe you should talk to them.
Government always reacts after the damage. They are incapable of.
Yeah, we know that.
On the flip side of that, having lived other places, I got to say, Clark County, there's a lot of resources in the public services here. So,
And they will be after the next bill.
so
Are the repeater frequencies and the link repeater on the website, be able to?
the repeater frequencies are there. The Echolink, we've had one of our members is now running that from his personal Echolink server. KK7 IWW, K something 7, KK7? Hey, I got it right. KK7 IWW-R is the dash L. Okay, yeah.
I haven't heard directly through what it is.
KK7 IWW.
Call sign.
Kilo 7, India Whiskey dash L, Lima.
Yep, and he stood up and did that on his own. He also stood up and runs a WinLink server out of his house. He was one of these guys who shows up with a spare truck in his truck. You know, he's one of those kind of guys. And all ready to go and says, you know, by the way, I set up a WinLink server for you. Like, wonderful. So even new guys can do that. In terms of what equipment would you ever need to use? Well, it's pretty much the stuff you already have on hand. Go down to Harbor Freight, buy a couple of Go boxes and a decent lithium-ion battery and a means to charge it, a solar panel. You know, solar's pretty reliable here, right? So, well, thanks for having me out. Appreciate it. And any questions, you talk to these guys or me. Thank you.
Thank you.